3 days before the wedding, my sister sent me a text that changed everything. Still waiting on the last two gifts. Don't show your face without them. No greeting, no gratitude, just a demand. 10 minutes later, my mom called and said, if you were real family, you'd complete the list. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just went quiet. And in that silence, something inside me snapped awake. I canceled the 5 luxury gifts I'd already bought, froze the catering funds I was covering. 2 days later, my phone lit up with 29 missed calls. Because what they didn't know was that I wasn't just walking away from the wedding. I was walking away from the role they'd written for me, the silent giving sister who never said no. They thought I'd cave. They thought I'd still show up. They had no idea what was coming. I was folding laundry when the message came through. Just 2 lines, still waiting on the last 2 gifts. Don't show your face without them. No, hey, no emoji, no hint of humor, just that. I stared at the screen for a few seconds. Not angry, just still. Because it wasn't the first time. Not the first time my sister Aubrey had talked to me like I was an assistant with a credit card. Not the first time she'd forgotten that I had a job, a rent, a life. Not the first time my mom had co-signed the pressure. And sure enough, less than 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Mom. Her voice was tight, like she was already annoyed I hadn't replied. Harper, you know how important this weekend is. If you were real family, you'd finish the list. This is her only wedding. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just let the silence stretch. She filled it. Like always. You're already covering the catering. What's 2 more things? A Chanel clutch and a Tesla rental. It's not like you're broke. That's when I hung up. Politely. Quietly. I didn't scream or block anyone. I didn't send a dramatic message or type a snarky reply. I just got up and walked to my laptop, and that's where the undoing began. 6 months ago, I had agreed to help. That's the word they used, help. Back when it felt like a gift, not a requirement. I paid the venue deposit without hesitation, covered the photographer, booked the catering, and even surprised Aubrey and her fiancé with a honeymoon trip to Maui 2 weeks, ocean view suite, everything prepaid. That had been my idea. She cried when I showed her the reservation. I thought it meant something. I didn't realize it was just the beginning of a very long invoice. The gift list came a month later. 10 items, 5 reasonable espresso machine, monogrammed robes, a luxury wine set, a robot vacuum, and a designer serving tray. I bought all 5 within a week. Then came the last 2. A Rolex and a car. Not a model listed, no budget, just a luxury watch and a Tesla for photos. Her words, it'll elevate the aesthetic. I laughed at first, thought she was joking. She wasn't. When I said no, she didn't argue. She just said, well, I hope the venue is refundable. That's when I felt it. Not rage, not sadness, clarity. The kind that hits in a single, still moment, like the exact second you realize a bridge isn't worth crossing anymore. So I closed the tab with the Tesla rental, opened my inbox, and started pulling threads. I started with the smallest thread. The espresso machine was still in processing. I canceled it with 1 click. The monogrammed wine set? Already shipped. I called the courier and rerouted it to my place. The robot vacuum, the robes, the serving tray, same story. Some returned, some resold online within hours. I didn't even keep the profits. I just wanted them gone. Every cancellation felt like breathing again. Like unhooking a weight I hadn't noticed was chained to my spine. Next came the catering deposit. I opened the invoice, hovered over the payment tab, and froze it. Not canceled, not yet, just paused. The caterer would call me the next day. I wouldn't pick up. Then the big one, the honeymoon. 2 weeks in Maui, flights booked, suite reserved under my name, spa credits, excursions, sunset dinners. I had imagined her face lighting up, imagined her saying thank you, with tears in her eyes. She never did. I called the travel agency. Hi, I need to cancel a honeymoon reservation. Yes, I'm the one who booked it. Yes, I'll take the refund as travel credit. I had no plans for Maui. Not yet. But something in me whispered, you'll go. But not for them. For you. That night, I poured a glass of wine and sat in the dark of my apartment. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. Just done. I pulled out the spreadsheet I'd created for the wedding lists, vendors, payments. It looked like something a project manager would design for a Fortune 500 company. Color-coded tabs, deadlines, confirmation numbers. It looked like effort. Like love. I stared at it for a moment, then selected the whole sheet and hit delete. I sent one final message to my sister. Venue and catering are no longer covered. You'll need to make other arrangements. No explanation. No justification. Just truth. Then I turned off my phone. In the silence that followed, I felt something shift. Like the floor beneath the stage, creaking after the final scene. Like stepping off a treadmill and realizing your legs have been running for years. I slept better that night than I had in weeks. The next morning, I didn't check my phone. I didn't need to. But when I finally turned it on that afternoon, the screen lit up like a fire alarm. 29 missed calls. My sister. My mother. Even my father, who rarely called anyone unless someone died or the AC broke. Voicemails, texts, notifications, all screaming the same thing. How could you? They weren't asking what happened. They were telling me how I'd ruined everything. But here's what they didn't understand. I didn't ruin anything. I had simply removed myself. And when the person holding everything together walks away, what falls apart was never solid to begin with. The first voicemail was from Aubrey. It started mid-scream, like she'd hit record mid-tantrum. Are you kidding me, Harper? You canceled everything? Do you even understand what you've done? Doors slammed in the background. Someone, probably her fiancé, shouted something about calling the venue. The message cut off before she finished the sentence. The second voicemail was from Mom. Her tone swung between a sob and a scold. I don't know what's going on with you lately, but this is betrayal, Harper. She's your sister, your blood, and you've humiliated her. I didn't press play on the third, I just deleted it, and the fourth, and the fifth. By noon, I'd stopped checking altogether. It wasn't guilt I felt. It wasn't shame. It was clarity. Like I'd finally stepped outside the echo chamber. Around 2 p.m., I got a text from Dad. He hadn't called classic him. Text only when things got messy. Let's be reasonable. You've made your point. Now fix it before it's too late. Fix what? My decision to stop being their ATM? My refusal to buy silence in exchange for being family? I didn't reply. Not because I wanted to make a point, but because I had nothing left to say. I wasn't negotiating anymore. By that evening, the narrative had flipped. At first, I was overreacting. Then I was unstable. Then I was jealous. Each label they threw was just another way to avoid facing the real story. They'd used me, and I had finally said no. But there was one twist I hadn't anticipated. The venue sent out an automatic cancellation notice to both families. The catering company followed up with a polite confirmation, which meant one thing: the groom's family found out. They had no idea I was behind the scenes all this time. They believed, like I once did, that the luxury wedding was being funded by his parents, that the 5-star catering and oceanfront venue were their gift to the couple, because that's what Aubrey told them, that all the expensive parts of the wedding were quietly handled by the groom's side to avoid drama. When it all collapsed, they started asking questions. Where did the money go? Why were there no backups? Who had really paid for what? And someone, maybe a cousin, maybe a vendor I'll never know, told them the truth. Told them it wasn't the groom's parents. It wasn't the couple. It was me. Just me. That afternoon, I got a message from Mary Prescott, the groom's mother. We'd spoken only twice before, brief hellos during planning calls Aubrey always took over. But this time she texted, I think there's been a huge misunderstanding. Could we talk? I didn't answer. 5 minutes later, another text came in, a screenshot. A group chat filled with fire. Relatives, vendors, cousins, the truth exploding like fireworks. My name was everywhere. And for once, no one was telling me to stay quiet. The screenshots kept coming. One from a cousin in Ohio, one from an old vendor contact, one forwarded anonymously through Instagram DM. Each one showed the same thing. A wedding unraveling in real time and my name at the center of it. At first, the texts in the group chat were full of confusion. Why would the caterer back out? Wait, wasn't the venue paid in full? Didn't Mary handle that? Then someone dropped the truth like a hammer. It wasn't Mary. It was Harper, the sister. And just like that, the illusion cracked wide open. I wasn't in the room. I wasn't even invited to the conversation. But suddenly, I was the only name people were talking about. The groom's parents were furious not at me, but at their own son. Turns out, Aubrey and her fiancé had spent months bragging to everyone that the groom's family was covering the luxury details quietly to avoid tension. They'd taken my generosity and repackaged it as theirs. Every gift I bought, every bill I paid. They put someone else's name on it and took a bow, until I walked away. And suddenly, there was no bow left, just a pile of ripped ribbon and broken stories. Later that night, my uncle, Uncle Ray, the only person in my family who never once asked me for anything, called me. His voice was low, steady. No judgment, just truth. It was gonna happen eventually, he said. I'm surprised it took you this long. I didn't say anything. Then he added, they're scrambling. Groom's dad is demanding receipts. Your sister's having a full-blown meltdown. And guess what? He paused. You're not the villain anymore. You're the hole in their story they didn't know existed, the one they can't patch. That call stuck with me. Because for the first time, I realized this wasn't just about me being left out. It was about them getting caught. They didn't miss me. They missed the version of me that paid for their fantasy and never spoke up, the one who kept her head down while everyone else took credit. But that version of me, she was gone. At some point that night, I sat at the edge of my bed and opened the drawer where I kept the original wedding binder, the one with all the vendor contacts, timelines, menus. I flipped through it slowly, page by page. And then I did something I didn't expect. I took out the Hawaii reservation confirmation still in my name and clipped it to a separate folder labeled simply, me. I most often can. It was the first time I planned something for myself in over a year, and I wasn't done yet. The wedding went on without me. Of course it did. They found a new venue, a bland event space near the interstate that used to be a conference center, swapped the caterer for a local buffet setup, replaced the 5-tier cake with cupcakes stacked on a plastic tower, but they called it intimate on Instagram. Like it was intentional. I watched from a distance muted story clips, blurry reposts, fake laughter. The only time I felt anything was when my cousin Ellie texted me out of nowhere. Yo, they're talking about you. You're in the speech. I blinked. What speech? The video came in less than 5 minutes later. A low-resolution upload from someone's Facebook story just long enough to catch a microphone being handed off during the toasts. After a string of recycled compliments from bridesmaids and groomsmen, someone unexpected stepped up. Grant Prescott, the groom's uncle, a man I'd spoken to once during a planning call that Aubrey had immediately taken over. Quiet. Reserved. The kind of person who blends into the edges of family events. Until now. He tapped the mic once, then looked around the room like he was measuring his words. I've been listening to a lot of praise tonight, he began, and that's fine. It's a wedding. That's what we do. A few scattered chuckles. But I think we're ignoring the elephant in the room. None of this. He gestured at the crowd, the lights, the couple, would have happened without someone who isn't here tonight. Silence. Harper Lane, the bride's sister. She booked the venue, covered the catering, planned the honeymoon, bought more gifts than most people give in a lifetime. And she pulled out after being disrespected in a way I wouldn't wish on anyone. I felt my chest tighten. I couldn't look away. Some of you were told stories. Now you know the truth. He raised his glass. To Harper. Wherever you are tonight, you deserve better than silence. I could hear the clink of silverware. Someone in the video let out an awkward laugh. Another started to clap, then stopped. The moment teetered between gratitude and discomfort, like no one quite knew which direction to lean. Then the clip ended. But according to Ellie, that was just the beginning. She called me that night. Girl, she said. Your sister walked out halfway through dessert. No joke. Full meltdown. Groom was pissed, trying to play it cool. Aunt Mary told someone, and I quote, "At least one person in this family has integrity." I didn't know what to say. I just listened. Because for the first time in this entire process, someone had said my name out loud. Not to ask for money. Not to assign blame. Not to guilt me into coming back. But to say, I saw you. You were there. You mattered. And that changed something. Not just for them. For me. The morning after the wedding, I got an email from the resort in Maui. Subject line, attempted check-in under unlisted name. Alert required. Apparently, someone had tried to check into the honeymoon suite under my name 2 days early. No reservation existed anymore, of course. I'd canceled it weeks ago and rebooked the dates for myself, later in the year. The front desk rep wrote, they were upset when we couldn't locate the reservation and became agitated when told the suite had been released. They'd shown up expecting me to not mean it, to cave, to keep being Harper, the quiet sister who paid and stayed in the background. And when I didn't, they tried to fake it anyway. That moment should have made me angry. But instead I laughed. Out loud. Alone in my kitchen. Because even in their unraveling, they thought they could rewrite the ending. After that, I moved quickly. I reached out to every vendor I'd used for their wedding. Returned the luxury gifts that were still en route. Rerouted whatever had shipped. Listed unopened items online and resold them within 48 hours. I wasn't desperate for the money, but I was desperate to take back what I had given freely to people who treated me like a transaction. The espresso machine sold to a newlywed couple. The designer robes? Bought by a bridal spa in Portland. Every item that left my apartment took with it another layer of obligation I never signed up for. Of course, word got around. My mother left a voicemail so dramatic it sounded scripted. You're shaming us. During your sister's most important weekend. Why would you do this? I didn't answer. A cousin messaged asking if it was true I'd taken the gifts back. I replied with one word, yes. The silence that followed was delicious. But what happened next? That was the real twist. A week after the wedding, I heard from Grant again, the uncle who'd given the toast. He called from a blocked number, started with, "You probably don't want to hear from anyone right now." But then he said, "That speech?" I meant every word. And so did a lot of people there. You lost a seat at their table, but you gained something more important. Respect. We talked for 5 minutes. That was it. But in those 5 minutes, he told me something that changed everything. The groom's dad is enforcing the repayment agreement. Full amount, no grace period, no more access to the family fund. Apparently, after the wedding, a few relatives cornered the groom and demanded to know why he let me take the fall. He said he didn't know the full story. But no one believed him, because they'd seen enough. Because once you watch someone steal generosity and turn it into a lie, you don't forget it. 3 days after the wedding, just as I was starting to believe the storm had passed, I got a text from my cousin Rachel. We hadn't spoken in years. We were never particularly close, but her message started with, "I just want you to know, not everyone bought the act." I didn't need to ask what she meant. I knew. But what she sent next that caught me off guard. A video recording. 30 seconds long. The camera was shaky, discreet, clearly taken with someone pretending to check their phone. It was the post-wedding brunch at my parents' house. Small gathering, close friends, a few cousins, the bride and groom, my mom, and unexpectedly the groom's parents too. The footage started with Aubrey sighing heavily. "I'm just so tired." Honestly, I had to pull everything together at the last second. Harper pulling out the way she did it almost ruined everything. She looked around, waited for sympathy, then added, with a little eye roll, "Honestly, it's probably better she wasn't involved. She gets so intense about things. Controlling, you know?" I froze. There it was, the rewrite. Version 2 of the narrative. Erase the truth. Recast me as the unstable one. The drama. The difficult sister. But before anyone could echo her, a voice cut through. A man's voice. Someone I didn't recognize. "I don't know," he said calmly. "From what I heard, if Harper hadn't been involved at all, there wouldn't have even been a wedding to save." The room went quiet in the video, utterly still. You could see Aubrey's posture shift, that tight, practiced smile falter. He went on, "It's strange how the person who funded almost everything got written out so quickly. Makes you wonder what else got rewritten." That line hit me hard, not because it was bitter, but because it was honest. And it didn't come from someone trying to defend me. It came from someone just not willing to lie. I watched the clip twice, then a third time. Aubrey gave a tight little laugh at the end, tried to change the subject. But the damage was done. She wasn't the only one exhausted. People were tired of pretending. Later that evening, I got another call. Blocked number again. I picked up. "Harper," the voice said. "It's Grant." He didn't apologize for calling. He didn't try to soften anything. He just said, "They're still trying to spin it. But the story's gone. You didn't burn their wedding down. You just stopped holding up the roof." We sat in silence for a second before he added, "Whatever they lost, they did it to themselves. And a lot of people saw that. You didn't just say no. You reminded the rest of us what no looks like." That night, I went to bed lighter than I had in months. Because the worst had already happened, and I was still standing. I didn't get invited to the brunch. I wasn't part of the wedding photos. No mention in the captions. No tag. Not even a passive-aggressive text the day of. It was like I never existed. And honestly, that silence didn't hurt. It felt like peace. That weekend, while they were duct taping a wedding back together, I slept in. I made myself pancakes. I drank coffee on my balcony. I didn't think about the dress I never bought, or the toast I never gave, or the sister who never once asked, "Are you okay?" Instead, I opened my travel folder. The Maui credit, the one they thought I wouldn't use, was now booked for October. Not for a couple. Not for a honeymoon delayed. Just for me. No itinerary. No expectations. Just quiet. I hiked coastal trails with no phone service. I sat on beaches until the sun disappeared behind the water. I ate fresh fruit from roadside markets and read novels under palm trees. And on the last night, I stood at the edge of the ocean and whispered to myself, "You didn't lose your family. You lost the version of them that only saw your worth in what you gave." 2 weeks after I got back, my mom called. First time since the wedding fiasco. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just, "Can you help me apply for something online?" Insurance forms. "I don't understand it." That was it. "No." "How are you?" "No, I miss you. Just need." I helped her. Then I changed my number. A week later, I got an email from Dad. Short, vague, cold. Time heals. Family always comes back together. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I finally understood something. He wasn't talking to me. He was talking to the version of me they all preferred. The silent one. The giving one. The one who didn't ask for anything back. That version doesn't live here anymore. I started therapy. For the first time in my life, I said the quiet things out loud. That I was raised to believe love usefulness. That saying no felt like betrayal. That I kept hoping someone would notice what I carried. They never did. But I did. Now, I have boundaries. People in my life ask how I'm doing and wait for the answer. When I say no, they respect it. When I say yes, it's a choice, not a debt. My sister hasn't spoken to me since the wedding, not a single word. And honestly, that silence is the most honest thing she's ever given me. For most of my life, I thought being useful was the same as being loved. I gave. I stayed quiet. I handled things behind the scenes because I believed that's what good daughters and good sisters did. But somewhere along the way, I lost myself. And the moment my sister texted me demanding 2 more luxury gifts, I finally woke up. Not in anger, just in clarity. Walking away from the wedding wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming the version of me who didn't need to buy love anymore. And in doing that, I found something I didn't even know I was missing. Peace. If you've spent years giving too much for family, for harmony, for obligation, I hope you hear this. You're allowed to choose yourself. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly. Like I did. And that's enough. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever reached a breaking point like mine? What helped you move forward? Comment below, your voice matters. And if this story spoke to you, please subscribe. There's more to come for all of us learning how to say enough with grace.